faith of her father to help those less fortunate than them. Her ability to work long and hard hours was remarkable. Back in the day when Central hosted huge rummage sales, she would come for a work session after her long 10-hour day at the shop and would work circles around everyone else. She was famous for saying, "Let's just finish these boxes before we stop," whether it was 1 box or 10 boxes. She was a fabulous host, either at home or at church, and was a wonderful cook. You would have thought she was Italian when you tasted her spaghetti sauce, and her homemade bread was legendary with the customers of our numerous bake sales. Many folks arriving early so they could buy some loaves before they were all gone. Many a time she or Floyd would talk about starting loaves and going to sleep before they could get them to the oven, sometimes with disastrous results. She was humble but strong. The story goes that they had a back-to-back party at the house on Magnolia one time, and during the first party, real candles that were lit on the mantle of the living room caught the decorative greenery on fire. It was quickly extinguished, but there was smoke damage to the walls and ceiling. No problem. With her beautiful but assertive smile in place, she sweetly, or maybe not so sweetly, convinced Floyd that repainting the living room was no problem if he cleaned and painted throughout the night. So that's just what Floyd did. They had a wonderful party the next night with freshly painted walls. He couldn't deny her anything. Another story. After one of our infamous ice storms, a tree in Carol Floyd's backyard on Magnolia needed to be removed. When the tree man gave Carol a quote of $24,000, she reportedly told him, "I hope you don't think I'm that rich or that stupid." Her negotiating skills were legendary. Focused and driven would also describe Carol. She was one of the propelling forces behind Central's silent auction at the Autumn Eden event for untold years. She would start asking merchants, members, and friends for auction items several months in advance and always brought in up to 200 gifts. Success to her was counted in large numbers. Who could resist her beautiful blue eyes, gorgeous blonde hair, and sparkling smile? She meant the world to Floyd, and when asked what he was doing, he would answer, "Whatever Carol tells me to do," or, "I don't know yet, Carol has not told me." At one time or another, we all waited to proceed until Carol told us what to do or told us her perspective. From sharing a fishbowl margarita at Gonzales and Gertrude's, or a glass of wine while Floyd fished off their dock at Snow Lake, she always had an opinion, and we paid attention to it. Remembering Carol is a celebration, and not only of her life, but of the effect she had on everyone else. You couldn't know her and not have your life changed. She and Floyd are together again. We know he needs direction, and now they're both.
Hello. I'll be reading from Proverbs chapter 31 in praise of a good wife. A truly good wife is the most precious treasure a man can find. Her husband depends on her, and she never lets him down. She knows how to buy land and how to plant a vineyard, and she always works hard. She knows when to buy and when to sell, and she stays busy until late at night. spins her own cloth, and she helps the poor and the needy. She is strong and graceful, as well as cheerful about the future. Her words are sensible, and her advice is thoughtful. She takes good care of her family, and she is never lazy. Her husband says, "There are many good women, but you, Carol, are the best." Charm can be deceiving, and beauty fades away, but a woman who honors the Lord deserves to be praised. Show her respect. Praise her in public for what she has done. Rest in peace, my dear friend Carol.
I've just got to believe someone could look all the way to where we are now, because he had to know Carol. I mean, if you listen to that, Carol was right there in the middle of it, and he was describing her. I found that really very interesting. It all started in Woodville, Tennessee. Now, Woodville is on the outskirts of someplace up in West Tennessee, because every place is on the outskirts of someplace in West Tennessee. And Carol was born at home. But as I learned, the doctor got a little bit sideways, and he put the wrong birthday on the birth certificate. So I really don't know, from talking with you all, does she celebrate her real birthday, or did she celebrate what the birth certificate said? And did it give her any problems when Social Security came along? Because I had some in-laws that were twin sisters. And they were born up in someplace in West Tennessee. And the courthouse burned down. And one sister's records burned, and one sister's records stayed. And the one who's burned claimed that she was born the day before her sister was, so she could get Social Security one day quicker than her sister. Anyway, Carol, we know, was the eighth of 8 children. Now that's a large family. I can't imagine fixing that many sandwiches for children to go to school and this, that, and the other. But I have this vision, seeing as that she was born at home. I have this vision of she's born, she's been slapped, she goes, bang, and they wrap her up, and they put her in a bassinet or something. She's the youngest, remember now. And all of a sudden, she looks up and hears 7 pairs of beady little eyes looking down into that bassinet. And they're thinking, oh no, not another. And I'm not sure when your cognitive things come into play, but I bet she was thinking, what in the Sam Hill is all of that up there? Anyway, you know, growing up in West Tennessee, there's not a whole lot to do. You went to church, and that was just about it. And this is in the 50s and the 60s, and they were members of the Baptist church. Hooray for the Baptists. Hooray for the Baptists. But they also played a lot of games together. They played together. And one of the things that came up in my conversation with the family was how much fun they had seeing how many kids, or maybe adults too, they could cram into the cab of an old pickup truck. And that just really amused them and everything. And after I met with them and they were telling me all this, I got to thinking about when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, and I suspect some of you have too, when you went to the shrine service. And they drove that stupid little Volkswagen out there, and 37 clowns just out of that Volkswagen. Now, I drive a Volkswagen, and pretty much I'm there by myself, and I can't get out of it by myself. Now, they did it with 37 people in there, I do not know. Anyway, So eventually, Carol graduated. She moved to Memphis. She went to cosmetology school against her father's advice because he said wouldn't make enough money. But she did. She made enough money to buy a condo. And she and her friend Nancy, and Carol was frugal, and Carol could do most anything with her hands. They laid the parquet floor in that condo. Now, can you imagine taking those little 4x4 squares or 8x8 or whatever they were and doing that? Oh, no. But Carol did, and she probably did it better than any professional tile layer or whatever could possibly do. She did what she wanted to do. Anyway, he told her she wouldn't make enough money, so she bought a condo. Well, he told her daddy that she wouldn't make enough money, so lo and behold, she went and bought her own beauty salon. I'll show you, Pop, over there on Cooper. And that's, I don't know how long it was in business, but I know it was there a long time. And I'm in Midtown, I was a Midtown person, and I know what a wonderful reputation she had amongst her customers. She was so good that, somebody already said this, that she was elected the president of the Tennessee Association of Cosmetology one year. And then, along came Floyd. One of her co-workers was going to get married. She was going to marry an uncle of Floyd's. And Floyd came with the uncle. So here comes Floyd, riding into Carol's life, not on a big white stallion, but on a rip-roaring Harley. That's how he comes into her life. And he took one look at that blue-headed, blonde-haired, beautiful lady, and he was smitten. And he said, that's who I'm going to marry. Well, Carol, oh boy, let's think about this for a while. Let's not jump into anything, not crash. And so they let things go along for a while, and Floyd obviously did a very good job of wooing, because eventually she gave in. And they got married, or they started to get married. And as I told you a minute ago, she came from a Baptist background. And her Baptist minister would not marry them because Floyd had been divorced. So they had to find some place that would marry the two of them. And what a stroke of genius on God's part to lead them here to Central Christian Church. Because I don't need to reiterate what they have said about all that Floyd and Carol did for this church. But they just did a ton, and you had to love them. Now, Carol never grumbled. Floyd's middle name is Grumble, but Carol would look over at him. He quit grumbling, and he started doing what it was she wanted to do. And I learned, and I've been here 10 years as minister, but I've known this church for 30 years prior to that. Watching them was fun. And if I had been very young and watched them as a married couple, that would have been my example. Because you knew they loved each other. They might snipe at each other, they might throw barbs, but you knew 99% of the time it was in love, it was in jest, and that when all was said and done, they would hug each other and everything would be fine. So, we got married, everything was good, and she said that nothing was going to slow her down. And I think even though she passed away on Good Friday, I don't know, the whole family tell me, how long ago did they move to the lake? 8 years ago? Anyway, they got, oh, what a foretaste of glory divine. Because that lake, Floyd and for Carol, was heaven. absolute heaven. And the thing that made it so neat, and this is Floyd and Carol,